Welcome to the Water People podcast. Today, we're in conversation with freesurfer Dane Gudauskas, one of the sunniest, most stoked surfers around. He's co-founder of Positive Vibe Warriors, a foundation that assists communities with youth water safety programs and ocean education. This episode is presented in partnership with Who Gives a Crap. If nothing else, I feel like 2020 has taught us how much we collectively value our health, our community, and toilet paper.
Yes, that's right, Lauren. What about the time when we were with our little guy in the pool and a swimming lesson went horribly wrong and I was holding him as he let out a big brown cloud into the pool? And at that point, we really realised how unprepared we were. And we had zero cleaning supplies, toilet paper, napkins, tissues, anything at all. We had nothing. Basically just super parenting rookies. And we'd also just rocked up to the swimming lesson covered in sand, zinc, and basically pretty feral compared to all the other parents. And so since that day, we have always stored a spare roll of Who Gives a Crap in our car or bags or anywhere basically, so that we're ready for anything our toddler's going to throw at us.
We support Who Gives a Crap because they're committed to using their business for good. No plastic packaging, TP made from recycled textbooks, and they donate half of their profits to help improve sanitation and build toilets for the 2 billion living without one. They know that making a difference begins with small changes that can have big impact. You can make a difference with your TP budget too by going to whogivesacrap.org right now and use the coupon code WATERPEOPLE to get $10 off your first subscription. That's $10 off your first subscription purchase at whogivesacrap.org with coupon code WATERPEOPLE. Our podcast comes to you from the coastal land and waters of both the Bundjalung and Gubbi Gubbi nations. We'd like to acknowledge these traditional custodians and pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging. We'd also like to extend that respect to all First Nations people this podcast ripples out toward.
Well, someone like Dane is really quite easy to read when you surf with him. So it's kind of one of those things where, you know, if someone's surfing is really indicative of their personality and their preferences and focuses in life. And so it's just the most fun to surf with Dane because one, he's an amazing surfer. Two, he's a high-speed surfer, which is always entertaining. And three, he's just like happy and grateful and willing to have a chat with anyone and is just obviously really enacting his gratitude when he's surfing. And so that just spills into all areas of life, you know, with him. And of course, I'm sure there's moments where there's some shadow times, like for all of us.
And he talks about that in our chat.
Yeah, but it's just like one of those things where, you know, we have that great fortune of being able to choose to do something with our time, and that something is surfing. And there are just so many blessings in that and so many things to be grateful for, and that's what he does.
Yeah, I think there was an important distinction you made there. He's happy and grateful, and I think in our chat with Dane, he really made it clear that he can be so happy because he shares his gratitude for surfing with others through Positive Vibe Warriors and through his family and with his brothers, of course.
Yeah. And just a really talented guy in the water, you know. And to me, that's enough to want to chat with someone. And then, you know, you find out there's all these other layers to someone, and that's wonderful. But you know, I've shared time in Indonesia and on boats and Hawaii and different places with Dane, and even here in our backyard playing good mitten and going surfing on the back beach, and it's just always a real pleasure and a real wonderful thing to spend time with Dane.
So, Dane, thanks for being here with us. We always start the podcast with the same question, and that is about a time or experience after which you were never the same. Do you have a moment like that?
Yeah, the moment that was like most impactful, probably in my whole life in terms of my outlook and everything, was around 2017, and we were doing kind of these board drive initiatives through the foundation that my brothers and I host. And we were doing one for South Africa in Cape Town, and all around Africa, essentially, through the Waves for Change and Service Not Street Children organizations. And we got a chance to go down and meet the boards. There's about 800 of them. So, I mean, it was a big effort from the collective of California donating these boards. And I got a chance to meet up with, the instructors for the Waves for Change organization, which uses surfing as a therapy outlet for kids in townships. And it was just surreal.
So is it a situation where you are handing boards off directly to the kids who would be otherwise on the streets at that time? Are they there with you all down the beach? Was it that sort of scenario?
Yeah. So what it is so Service Not Street Children is this fantastic organization in Durban by Tom Hewitt. And he does a thing where he gets the street kids and he gives them an opportunity to, feel empowered and have, a roof over their head and food in their bellies. And Waves for Change is the same thing kind of on a bigger scale in Cape Town, South Africa. And they have areas all over Liberia and so forth. And upon arriving in Cape Town and shooting for the documentary aspect of it, we were hanging out with a lot of the instructors there. And they're the most beautiful, welcoming people. And I got a chance to go into the township in Kailicha, which is one of the most, pretty hardcore environments that you could imagine as a human being living in. And the people in that township were utilizing the Waves for Change resources in Mamwa Beach, which was the outlet for them to go surfing. And there was this woman named Connie, and she was just this really sweet soul. And she was actually the first woman lifeguard on the beach there in Mamwa. And part of the documentary experience, I had a chance to go into the township with her and Guyver, who's another instructor. And I remember sitting in the car with Connie, and we were having this discussion. It was just me and her. And she was telling me about growing up in the townships, what kind of experiences they had to go through, especially heavy and gang violence. And the way that they shined was this beautiful optimism. I'll just never forget it, like what they're exposed to and their willingness to give back to the community, and give back to the kids and really dedicate their lives to it. And really their lives could be taken at any moment. It was just a hostile environment to be growing up in. And the gift that they were given to the kids was this incredible love and the source of like, hey, we're here for you guys. And to see that and feel that moment and to be there in the community around these people through surfing, to me was just a wild culmination of my life's passion with connecting to what it really is about as humanity and being there with people and for people and all of that stuff, So
you had come from San Clemente, yeah?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I did.
You're coming from pretty much like ground zero surf industry, American surf culture space to that kind of place. Was it just like a completely left field expression of surfing for you to go and experience that? Was that just like completely out of character for you with surfing?
It wasn't out of character in terms of through traveling, like you guys know, you end up encountering these beautiful cultures all around the world in certain areas. And even people surfing for the first time, it's such an opening of the mind and of the body and the heart. And you feel their emotion when you see it. It's reflective. And so I've been around that joy before, going to remote locations and seeing it and feeling it, but seeing the difficulties and the hardships that these people were facing specifically was something unbelievable. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of, they were just amazing, resilient, and just beautifully strong and open. And they were courageous and going out and learning how to surf and being open to getting outside of their comfort zones 100% and being willing to be open and vulnerable with the teachers. And they're using surfing as a way to cope with what's going on land in their communities. So yeah, to come from here and my upbringing specifically to go down there where it was pretty challenged and challenging, it was a mind opener to see it. For one, how beautiful surfing can be as a therapy outlet. And for two, how resilient humans can be and just how beautiful of a light they can shine with, regardless of how troubling the experiences that are around them, you know?
Yeah, I so hear what you're saying, how when you're growing up with very little material privilege and you're surrounded by violence and you're seeing people you know and love die at the hands of violence, surfing seems like ridiculous, right? It's like this play, this outlet, like it seems like it should be this crazy, superfluous thing for very privileged people. But then to see it do the opposite of like giving people an outlet to escape in one way, but also heal.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It was just, I don't know, just something in her eyes and the way she spoke about the joy, that the ocean was giving her. She was a lifeguard. She was solely empowered to be where she was in that moment. So for me, just why that moment was so significant was looking back in terms of my own evolution through life, and everyone's lives have up and downs. And, my own life has been one of that way. I found so much inspiration in that woman, she was incredible. So I came back and I felt compelled to want to help others feel that same way, and through the vehicle of surfing, I felt inspired more than ever to really help people as much as I could through any way I could,
Yeah, well, you saw it work, didn't you? You saw how surfing can touch people in ways that other things aren't or can't. And so you've been using it as a vehicle for continuing to spread the good vibes ever since, it seems like.
I don't know, trying. I mean, we just enjoy surfing and the passion for the ocean and sharing that connective tissue with the community around it. I mean, you guys grew up in surfing communities and environments, and the brotherhood and the family aspect of surfing, it's unbelievable. And the bonds you form in the ocean are second to none. It seems, when in the ocean, you feel really vulnerable, and that's pretty reflective of life as a whole, there's unknown circumstances that could be coming your way at any moment. And it's how you intuitively react to those, or whether it's through experience and being in that situation before, you can make better decisions. But and learning from the elders of the community as well, which, is hugely important. So yeah.
The other beautiful thing I hear you saying from your experience with Connie is maybe a question about how can two people who have had such radically different experiences as human beings on the same planet, how can they come together and find a connection? And how magical that it came through something like the ocean, through surfing. And I think that's part of what we have been trying to do with this podcast is revealing all the ways that surfing can break down barriers. I mean, it can definitely create barriers too. And I think we're all privy to the ways that surfing can be exclusive and leave certain groups out of feeling included. But there are these magical moments where the barriers just dissolve and we get to have these incredible heart-to-heart moments around the aquatic experiences that end up shaping us forever.
Yeah, isn't it? It's just we're really fortunate to have the ocean as our playground and resource. And I don't know, thinking back towards how people from such different ends of the spectrum and people finding common ground and understanding is, I think through my own experiences, I've developed, I don't know, a sense of empathy or compassion just growing up and going through school and feeling a little bit out of sync with things, my own self-identity, my own self-awareness, and just, I don't know, feeling pretty confused in terms of who I was or what was going on around me, and didn't feel connected to other things other than surfing. That was my sense of identity, and just felt comfortable in the ocean. But in that process of feeling kind of a bit, awkward, I guess, for the most part, and super shy. Oh my gosh, I was like the shyest kid ever through high school. You wouldn't have even known me pretty much. I had my head in the books, or I was just super shy. But I got a sense of just observation of people around me, and feeling their presence or what they were kind of going through themselves, and becoming friends with people who may have felt the same way, and understanding maybe there's a common thread within that feeling of not knowing the answer, or not knowing how you feel right now, or feeling a little bit, out of sync or in sync at times, so just feeling more connected, even though I felt pretty distant inside, because I just felt like maybe everyone's going through these same issues that I'm feeling. And then we started traveling and surfing and going around and seeing these cultures. And I just kind of felt like there's certain universal languages that are similar to everywhere you go, whether it's smiling and you feel good when you're with these people. And I don't know, they understand that.
Yeah, it's energy.
Exactly. It's bouncing off of you and maybe reflecting. And the same goes for, these vulnerabilities. You can see when someone's, you can see it in their eyes, you can feel it in their body language. And at least I was feeling these things. And I just kind of felt like the more I traveled, I started seeing maybe that we might be closer together than we think. Or at least, I just kind of felt like I was trying to explore the ability to kind of enjoy being in the presence of people, and not trying to wonder are they feeling good or not, or just listen, and being a good listener. And yeah, so when I was with Connie, for example, or just for other people, sometimes the magic really resonates for me in my life when I've just listened to and sat there and just tried to feel what was going on. So
it's so beautiful to hear you talk like this, Dane, because in our world of surfing, and traditionally a pretty chest beating type of surfing, where we're we're all taught that extroversion and being loud and bold and audacious and all of these sort of out things are the thing to aspire to, are the attributes to develop, that you in Southern California would be sitting there with this great surfing skill and this gentleness and reflectiveness to be thinking about listening and just wanting to listen to people is a really beautiful thing to share. So I want to acknowledge that and say thank you for sharing that, because that's an uncommon thing for us to hear from the people who fill the pages of the magazines, or now they don't exist anymore, but the pages of internet websites and things like that, it's just great, man. So thank you for articulating that.
It's absolutely one of the most underrated skills in our modern culture, I think, just being able to listen, and the deep sensitivity that you've obviously honed and developed as being an introverted person. And Dave and I both can relate to that, because we're both pretty introverted for the most part. And by introverted, I mean that we get more energy from being alone at times. Like, we're quite loners, both of us.
Well, I'm wearing a Star Trek shirt, so there's no chance I'm going to have people around me. I'm always going to be a loner, because no one's going to hang out with the dude who's wearing Spock on his shirt.
Well, you never know. I mean, there's some pretty excited people about Star Trek. So, but it's true. I mean, I go both in and out of it too, because if you know me, I'm pretty, I'm excited, I'm colorful, I don't know how people might describe me.
It's a sliding scale.
Yeah.
Some days you're introverted and some days you're feeling like the life of the party. And the beautiful thing is to respect both of those states.
Well, when I was competing and I came out of high school pretty vulnerable, but open. And, I was just fresh to the world. You don't quite know what it is. And so I got on the tour and I was so excited, to be living this dream of surfing. It was for us, my brothers and I, not a guarantee, because we had dreams of always being surfers, but I don't know so to actually be pursuing it was something of a fantasy. But in that process, I realized I wasn't very good at competing, and so I was having a lot of difficulties. But Patrick was the exact opposite, and he was growing with this beautiful lift and getting results. And we're twins, so you can imagine the complexities of self-view and comparison just naturally, because you're always being alongside someone that's equal and sharing the same passions. And, I had a couple of good results, but it wasn't my natural place to be. It wasn't aligning for me, but I was really excited for Patrick because I was like, we're going to do this thing. But, and then Tanner came along and we'd been on the tour. But in that process, I started viewing myself as in the results and really having a hard time building self-love and self-confidence and what people my thought of how people were viewing me. And it was really tough. Psychologically, I really, really struggled.
What did struggling look like for you?
I think it looked pretty inward, maybe not being kind to myself in terms of self-talk, how I was acting, just second thoughts about everything and just feeling not vital, and just flat. And so I got to experience a pretty deep, depression side of things. But when you come through those aspects of viewing it, and that also surfing became a vehicle for me to do that through surfing waves that I felt connected to and challenged me, but I felt an alignment with it. I was able to build my self-confidence back just out of a more pure aspect. But I guess it just shows how flexible you can become as a human and what we can actually cope with and go through. And I don't know, the human mind, you guys know it. You guys have probably been in some spots where you questioned yourself and you question who you are and why you're here and those kind of deeper thoughts and how elastic you can rebound and you can actually overcome those emotions, and finding that sense of experience through those journeys was hugely important for me. But also it just made me think everyone's got to be going through these things. And when you're on side these people and hanging out with characters, and you can view it in different kind of ways, but I just felt like, man, we're stronger together when we're all going through these issues, and we're all, it allowed me to feel more connected than ever when I was in my deepest, darkest spot. Even though I felt singular in that experience in my mind, that I was having a difficult time, I felt connected, but more connected, more open than ever with the whole world, if that makes sense. I mean,
yeah, it makes perfect sense, man. And I think when we have the focal point be something like surfing, and that you can take yourself to perhaps a wave like the ledge at Cloudbreak, or you can take yourself to the West Bowl at Chopu, and you can take yourself to Pipe, and you can take yourself to these places that are going to reveal how much you either do or do not want to be here. They're really clarifying times. It makes me think of people like Johnny, was it, who was talking to us about not wanting to be in his body anymore, and then finding himself in Fiji in some solid waves and actually pulling back at the ledge at Cloudbreak because he was scared. But then he realized, oh, if I'm scared, it means I care. It means I actually want to be here. Holy shit,
yes.
This is amazing. And like that's an amazing thing that surfing can deliver us. So I wanted to ask you, when you just said that, like you mentioned briefly about perhaps going to certain waves and challenging yourself, did you have a list in your head? Were you thinking, I'm going to go to these places and I'm going to push myself and I want to feel how far I can go or how deep I can feel? Was there anything like that going on in your head?
Well, it's super interesting because I remember going to Puerto Escondido with my friend Rusty Long somewhere outside of high school, and I spent 3 weeks there, and I rode this 8.0 Almeric, just poof, elf shoe, and that thing was narrow and had a lot of rocker. But I remember surfing a big day out there, and for the first time in my life, I was like, "Holy smokes! This is like giving me this energy that I've never felt before," And at times it was very thrilling and exciting, but other times it was completely calming. If anything, it felt peaceful, and it felt like I was able to tune into my intuition more than I'd ever been before, regardless of surfing for my whole life up until that point, competing or not.
Puerto Escondido, for people who don't know, is not the kind of place that one would describe as peaceful. At least I would.
No, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Pretty much the gnarliest beach break pounding you're going to get in the world is probably there.
Sand in every orifice, no question.
Yeah. But it was cool. I don't know. I just felt more at home, and it's difficult to describe it, but it was as if all the chatter in my head and all this stuff was just fading away. And so obviously I'm a goofy footer and I love to go left. And so I would cherry pick the lefts at Porto. And I remember coming back and going, whoa, I think that's what I wanted. I want to pursue that style of surfing and this style of waves. I just felt natural with it. And then as soon as the competition kind of thing, the Patrick and Tanner ended up qualifying, and I was so excited. I was like, yes, you guys are on the tour. This is insane. I'm going to go over here now. My journey is going completely sideways from theirs. And it was the most liberating day of my life. I felt so free and completely like sink or swim too, in terms of my career wise, but I had all this opportunity in front of me and to surf whatever I wanted and however I wanted. And it was just, it was so invigorating.
So where did you go next then? So you did that. So can you give us a short list of how you then swam instead of sunk?
Yes. Well, the funniest thing is the very first swell I ever went to pursue was I was friends with Reef McIntosh, and we had spent some time at Pipeline before, and he was just an incredible mentor. And he's like, hey, keep an eye on Cloudbreak, and it had just opened up to the public. And it was maybe around 2010 or 11. And I remember the first time in my life looking at swell charts, I didn't know what I was looking at. I see colors. And all of a sudden, I'm just like, hey, I text Reef. I'm like, hey, I'm pretty sure there's a swell going to Fiji. I can't tell. And he's like,
purple heading there or something.
Well, that must have been the most obvious thing to me, because I was like, holy crap, I can't miss this thing. It looks like a swell. And he's like, holy crap, that's a big one. And we're going. He's like, grab the biggest board you got. He's like, get a float vest and be at the airport, and we're going. And we stayed on the mainland at the time, and I'll just never forget it. The day before the swell, when that really long interval's coming in, it was so beautiful. It was glassy. It was the whole time. And we surfed our brains out the day before the swell. And I was like, wow, I don't know if I'm going to have some gas in the tank. But the next day, I'd never seen anything like that. If you're coming out from the mainland to Cloudbreak, you see the tiny little tower in the distance. And all of a sudden, there was these dark, big lines from behind the tower. And I told Reef, I'm like, are those freighter boats out there? I had no clue that was legitimately waves. I couldn't make it. I was so tripping, man. And we surfed that swell. It was about 2 or 3 days. And I don't think I got too many great rides at swell, but I saw something that exploded my universe into I just was like, holy crap, this is possible. You can ride these waves. Guys like Mark Healy, who else got some great ones? Ryan Hipwood, I think, got a beautiful wave that swell. And I saw surfing that was completely, it just opened my mind, and since then I was just obsessed with it, going front side. And don't get me wrong, I paid the price. I got so annihilated that it humbled me and excited me at the same time. It just took me to my very, very core and just gave me just enough of a relaxing moment where I was like, oh, I could rebound, but it was just challenging in all the right ways.
That's so cool.
You've
spent some time out there, Dave. I saw you went out on one. Really nice
same kind of experiences for me. I don't think there's anywhere that has the kind of repetition in the impact zone that Cloudbreak has, don't you reckon? Like if you get pounded by one, like somewhere near the takeoff, then you pop up and you cop about another 10 on the head at the same velocity. Like it doesn't push you into the lagoon like Chopu does, or it doesn't push you into the beach like Pipeline does. It just holds you there along the reef until you got nothing left in the tank. And physically, you don't have anything left, so you got to pull energy from somewhere else to cope and stay calm. And I think that's a pretty amazing moment to have, especially if you're in a situation like what you're talking about, where you've just embarked on this new path and are opening yourself wide up to the world and just like, all right, I'm ready. And then something like that happens. I think that's really interesting that you were choosing those places to go at those times. And then, like you just said, you're rebounding, like you're bouncing off those moments, and you still are. I can see it in your face and your smile and your eyes and everything when you just think of it. So does that happen for you a lot? Like, in surfing circles, everyone talks about you and your brothers of just the positive vibe warriors. You guys are so bright. You're so luminous. How do you cultivate, or how do you remind yourself of that positivity now that we're years on from that experience at Cloudbreak? It's like 10 years on and you guys are still bouncing off the walls and seriously activated. How do you do it?
I think gratitude, honestly, it's unbelievable. You wake up every day and you get out of bed. You have the choice how you carry yourself and how you go for it. And I don't know. I can't tell whether it's been my experiences and through the whole journey that have allowed me to have this perspective, or if I've picked it up from other people that I've learned. Probably a collection of everything, and seeing people and going to communities and everything, and seeing just simple joys and how you can actually access those simple joys. And I just try and live with that, just simple and gratitude and staying in the moment. And
can you give us an example of that? It's probably nighttime where you are right now. So how did you do that today?
Oh, today. Oh my goodness. Well, I got out and I felt the wind, and I saw there was some nice sun coming through the window, and there's simple things that boost your mood, and just appreciating the small things. And, obviously having a family that has been incredibly loving, it's not necessarily that we had it easy all the time, but I tell you what, we really have always been there for each other. And so maybe that kind of too shapes those things where, it's a team effort, and so it kind of gives you that lift to go for it, but just appreciating things. And surfing is that thing too, man. We haven't surfed in over a month. So it's one of those things where staying in the moment and enjoying everything that you have, and just being thankful. So that's the way I felt. I don't know how to describe it other than just gratitude,
Sorry to interrupt the conversation, but we wanted to take a moment to recognize the generous folks who have supported us this season. The Water People podcast is brought to you by the fine folks at Sanuk. In 1997, founder Jeff Kelly started out with one simple goal: to make people smile, and to encourage them to pass it on. Sanuk has been advocating for a more playful and inclusive surfing culture for more than 2 decades, while crafting some of the comfiest footwear around. Thanks, Sanuk, for your support and for encouraging water people around the globe to protect their happy places. Learn more about Sanook's partnership with the Surfrider Foundation at sanook.com. Thanks also to Gary McNeil Concepts UK, our sponsor from Cornwall, apparently the Wild West of the UK. They import Gaz's boards direct from here in Australia to the UK and beyond. We love Gary McNeil's enthusiasm for building boards and his passion for combining recycled and plant-based materials to craft boards that prioritize durability, sustainability, and high performance. For custom orders and to check out the gallery of boards currently available in the UK, go to garymcneilconcepts.co.uk and enter the code WATERPEOPLE at checkout to get 15% off stock boards on the website. With there being three of you, you and your brothers, and you having this incredible reputation for being so kind and so generous in the work that you do, but also in your personal lives, it makes me think of your parents.
It's funny. I don't know how our parents did it. There were three of us. Patrick and I are twins, and Tanner's 2.5 years behind us. So the house was on wheels, man, and we all shared, it was amazing when we got a chance to move to San Clemente in 4th grade. We all shared a room that was about the size of this one that I'm sitting in now. It's about, not very big. But it was cool because we got to live in San Clemente and surf every day. And, there's beaches right there. But it was funny because Tanner and I had bunk beds and Patrick had his own bed. And we had this dynamic that we loved each other, but then we couldn't stand each other because we were living together in this tiny little space. It was so fun because there was just never a dull moment. And you learn through all of it that you've got to be, blood is thicker than water. And that's your team. That's who you are right there and to the core. And I always remember that. And I don't know how our lives would have turned out had we not been in such close quarters. And our parents always instilled, that mindset of optimism and compassion towards others, and teaching us to make eye contact and shake a hand, and just, I don't know, it felt like at the end of the day, they just they did their best to be really, really loving with us. So.
And you all play music together, and I always think that's a really great bonding thing to do with people. And was that something that come from your folks?
Yeah, my dad always loved playing guitar, and he would always bring it around. And yeah, he would teach us. I remember practicing finger picking this one song over and over again. He would just come in and be like, "Oh yeah, keep working on this, a little bit more of that." And it was the same for surfing as well. Like, we would sit there and, we got the chance to watch some surf videos. Our dad was a sales rep in the industry for Locomotion for a long time. So he would always be in the surf shops, and he'd bring home surf videos, VHSs. And that's why Tanner, my other younger brother, he's doing this thing online where he's showing these old VHS surf tapes. So, but, we'd sit there and watch over and over again. And mom and dad would sit there and watch us too, and watch the videos. And our mom would actually home video. So it was cool. It just felt like this really weird, cool environment, that was creative and encouraging, as well. Like you said, like music, like when you're learning music, it sounds funky and it's rough. I mean, shoot, my mom and dad must have put up with some sounds, and, I don't know. It's just fascinating how open they were to creativity, art, and everything. And it was just a way of life for them. I don't know how they got to that place where they were so giving with their time. And it was just a really, really great environment to grow up in.
Does everyone surf? Does your mom and dad surf?
Yeah, Pop surfs and mom surfs as well. She's from New Jersey, and she's got some awesome old surf photos of her surfing on the beaches over there. It's just amazing. And our dad as well has been a lifetime surfer. So I don't know, we were all always in the water. And Tanner was on his boogie board, and he actually took to surfing quite a bit later. And it was just kind of a classic scene. I mean, we were a barrel of monkeys, you know what I mean? We were in the Westphalia van. We show up to a spot, and all three of us would come out, toe heads, probably matching wetsuits. I mean, I can't even imagine what people thought of us, just smiling. And yeah, it was a trip, I wish I could see us from an outside perspective, just what you guys are going through it as parents yourselves, and seeing that simple growth must be fascinating, like them. Well, obviously, I don't know how old Minnow is in playing guitar or things, but just discovery,
Yeah, he's more like Bam Bam, kind of just destroying guitar.
Yeah.
Animal.
Yeah.
Looking back now as an adult yourself, and this will probably change again if you decide to have kids of your own, but what do you feel like were the principles of your parents' parenting? I mean, there had to be some solid values they conveyed to have 3 grown men who are so wonderful, like all 3 of you seem to be.
Well, I think at the end of the day, what they really instilled in us was just loving each other, really loving each other, and understanding that that's the bond that's going to keep us together as a family and as brothers, and then sharing that with others. And they would always reinstill that. Every night we'd have dinner together and we'd be talking, and they really, really encouraged that open mind, open heart, and universal languages. I remember distinctly my dad, he would tell us many times at night about universal languages, which was music and smiling and eye contact. And those are things that as we travel in the world, we may not be able to speak the language of whoever we're with, but we can relate and feel what each other are thinking and feeling. So we can share that bond and we can create that relationship. And it was pretty forward thinking looking back on it as now growing into a place where, hypothetically I could have a child, you know what I'm saying? And going, wow, that was really impactful to the way that I grew up and viewed the world. It probably all stemmed from that.
And so was a nightly family dinner part of the Gudauskas world?
Yeah, it was like 101 bean and cheese burritos, and but I love those things. Tostada, we call them tostadas, and they cooked home meals every night, and they really gave it their all. As parents looking back on it, I'm sure it was so difficult so many times, and going through different circumstances, and I'm sure they wanted to pull their hair out, but they always were so kind with their time,
I love seeing you guys, the 3 of you hanging out, and knowing that, well, I have 2 older sisters, right? So I'm one of 3 kids as well. And that the sibling relationships are the longest relationships of our life is pretty awesome. Like, we're stuck with each other from pretty much the beginning till the end. And so I love my sisters, and I love the perspective we give each other when perhaps one of us is in a bit of a tailspin. And
exactly.
Exactly. So is that something that happens with you 3 right now? Is there any examples of that you could give us?
Yeah. I mean, I do remember as a young kid just starting off the relationship, with Tanner. Specifically, I mean, all 3 of us, because we shared that room. I remember we would get in these quarrels that were so funny. I think there was a hole punched in the wall, you know what I mean? Like, we would go for it, but I don't think we ever connected. But like you said, you grow into this place where you respect each other and love each other, but also are your own independent person with your own thoughts and your own goals and your own dreams. And they're your sounding board. They can tell you when you're completely out of line or in line. And I mean, we've had our ups and downs too, certain things in our personal lives that, you go through challenges of communicating, and but when you come through those things out on the other side, you're closer again, even still. And I mean, I talk to those guys every single day and get their feedback, and they were really supportive of my direction when I split. And I was probably their biggest fan when they were doing that contest stuff and on the CT. And so I don't know if that was an example specifically of being in tailspin. Actually, just anytime you're in a low moment, you're going to get the straight truth. And to me, the straight truth is always the best remedy. And those guys they'll give you their perspective on it.
Yeah, what a blessing.
That's so beautiful. I'm an only child, so I don't have that. And gosh, that sounds amazing. I wish I had that.
I don't know. Sometimes it was hectic, but I know I love those guys. It's just family's one of those things, and to share surfing is and to actually all three be in the surfing world still is just it's a mind blower. I think looking back, and you guys know this, you have those dreams and to have them still being fulfilled and evolving, and then you're sharing them, and it's bringing you together. And also can be a bit challenging as well when the things are too intertwined. But for the most part, it's just an absolute beautiful way to go through the journey.
Speaking of you all three working together, can you talk about Positive Vibe Warriors? Was it an organization that you dreamed up together?
Yeah, it was so funny. So in that moment when we were going through our competitive time there, Patrick and Taryn had just qualified, and they were going to Australia, and I had been listening to a lot of reggae music. I love reggae music. I just love how empowering it makes me feel, and the messaging is beautiful of overcoming adversity. And Tanner was going to the contest, and I remember writing little thing, Positive Vibe Warriors, three little stick men, just so he knew that we were there with him. We were there for him anytime things got hard. And positive, is that the state of mind, and vibe is the connective energy, and warriors is the ability to overcome something, and I just felt like, hey, I'm going to write this on your board. So when you open up your board bag, you're going to see it, and I'm going to be there even though I'm not. And so that was just a mantra that we had, about being together, and whatever you're facing, you can do it, and you can go through the depths, and you can rise up, and you can overcome these things. And then it evolved where we're like, wow, this is kind of fun. We were having just a blast. We were making little sweatpants and drawing stuff. And we're like, people were kind of gravitating toward this energy. And so we're like, let's do something with this, and let's find a way to give back to the kids. And so we created a foundation, I think in 2012, and it aims to assist emerging surf communities and support youth water safety programs. So in the process of doing that, we've just kind of rallied around authentic conversations that we've had with people, whether we were in Jamaica, and that was actually the birth of the board drive thing that we do. And we were hanging with Billy Mystic and the kids, and we just realized that, man, these kids have such a strong love for surfing, and they don't have very much equipment down here. These boards are, man, they've been put back together about 10 times, and they're just riding the same board, sharing them, coming in, but their love for surfing was so insanely contagious. We went home and we're sitting around the coffee table, Pat, Taryn, and I, we said, what can we do, for those guys that would be insane? And we're like, let's do a surfboard drive. Let's see if we can get 20 surfboards. And lo and behold, we put it on Instagram. We just made some flyers for art, and went up and down the California coast for some surf shops, and we got over 250 surfboards for the whole nation of Jamaica for the kids and everything. And that blew our mind. And so we used the foundation as a vehicle to kind of pursue those kind of passion projects. And then it kind of went towards supporting, Big Wave Risk Assessment Group, which is a great organization that teaches life-saving skills. And, we allow opportunity for kids to apply for scholarships to go to those courses to become leaders in the lineup, which I feel really strong about, just ocean safety and it's such a fascinating, wild environment. It's so empowering, but also, can be so dangerous. So how to have the skill set to learn. And, the Bragg summits are taught by Brian Kailana, who's, one of the most incredible water people in the whole world. So I don't know, it's just been an evolution of passion, really. and really focusing to give back to the kids, because at the end of the day, that's where it's at. Like they see the world so beautifully and so purely. I think we get more out of it than they realize, so for us to be able to give back to the kids, it's the best.
I was reading about the Makaha event that you all put on, and specifically going into the school, Makaha Elementary, and giving all of the students of Makaha Elementary, all 500 of them, a new backpack and school supplies. That's so beautiful. But what made you choose Makaha?
Makaha is such a beautiful place. Like when we were growing up, Dad was rep for Locomotion, like I told you. And so we had these videos from Locomotion that were insane. All these classic old footage of Don King shot him, I think, of Buffalo going switch dance at Makaha and coming around these beautiful lines, and Rusty and Brian and Brian Pacheco. And we were like, wow, that wave looks crazy. But the backwash, I'd never seen anything like it. And so we were always curious about it, and then going to Hawaii and starting that evolution, we became really good friends by happen chance with this guy named Kimo Leong, who's a security guard over on the North Shore, well, from the West Side, but he was security guard for the pipe contest. And we ended up staying in the same house with him on the North Shore this one time. And he's this big, big Hawaiian fella. And we walked downstairs, and Tanner heard someone downstairs, and there was this little Hawaiian girl, and she was just hanging out, watching TV, doing some homework. And Tanner's like, hey, do you need anything, this and that? And we were staying at the Vance house at the time, and we didn't quite know who was coming and who was going. It was an open kind of house. And then next thing you know, Kimo came up the stairs, and he was like, oh, bro, what's going on? Like, we're staying downstairs. So we lived with those guys for a couple winters in a row. And Kimo has just been so welcoming to my brothers and I in coming to Makaha and showing us what the Hawaiian spirit really is. And, him and his friends and that whole community have opened us up to, in essence, of what Hawaii embodies. It's an incredibly special place, and I have so much respect for it. So when that was going on with the school particularly, we had been talking with Dwayne DeSoto, who runs the Nakamakai organization, and he's just a really special person as well. And I forget how it came together. Well, actually, it was Kimo's idea. Yeah, and he had the vision, and all of a sudden we rallied just a bunch of goods. But I don't know, it's just a really special community, and for us to have the opportunity we were just incredibly thankful for, and that's getting a chance to see Uncle Buffalo and just hear the stories, and just listen and just feel the culture of what's really going on over there. And I mean, Hawaii is just such a sacred place, and the people are the most beautiful part of it, to me.
And it's the deepest roots of our surfing culture too, isn't it?
Yeah. Have you guys been over to the Buffalo Big Board contest?
Oh, I've been wanting to get to that for a long time.
Oh man, it looks insane. And
yeah,
so you feel like when you step on the sand, and you guys have probably been over there, you feel that the history pouring back into your soul. You see people riding canoes right through the lineup. There's every sort of craft you could ever imagine being ridden all together, and somehow there's an ecosystem that works and thrives, and people looking out for each other, and those kind of values we learned from, over time, going there and seeing how they cared for the youth and looked after their elders. And it was just this incredible environment, and we picked up a lot from it, and a lot of what we do, I guess, is just trying to say thank you as best we can, and so doing things like the school thing is we just wanted to say thank you. I mean, those guys have taught us and given us so much opportunity to learn and see things that we never would have dreamed of. You know what I'm saying? Like when we were kids and at home, that's why I'm always constantly blown away. I'm just in awe,
Well, that's the gratitude right there. You can see it in your face and hear it in your voice. It's real, That's really wonderful, man. It's great.
Yeah, so Dane, you mentioned that you haven't surfed in a month. So what's been lighting you up?
Um, I guess just spending time with Anna, my girlfriend, who's been living here at the house, and our dogs, and working in the yard. Started a little veggie garden, and just kind of passionately enjoying looking after it, and taking my mind off, I guess, the ocean, but also using the same sense of purpose in everything that I'm pursuing right now. And I don't know, I feel like you can still maintain the same spirit, the same sense of excitement of things, even though you're not in the water. I was just reading this book recently about yoga and how you can kind of be doing essentially like yoga while you're doing the dishes, or it's more of a flow or a state of mind rather than a certain thing that you have to be doing at a certain time. So kind of just felt the same thing with surfing. What can we utilize from our surfing background that we can apply to different aspects of our lives, even though we're not in the water, so to speak.
So does that mean you're like highlining off your veggie beds and then like walking up the walls and doing fades as you go to the toilet and stuff like that? Are you employing
Well, if I had the slack line out, then I'd be getting barreled on that. But no, it's a sense of it's in your movements, your mind, the way you look at things, and you flow and you move. And I just feel like there's a gracefulness that surfing allows us to tap into. And if you can pursue the rest of your life like that, then, and how you engage with each day, then maybe there's a relevant connection there that I've been trying to tap into in this time where, we haven't been able to access the ocean.
That's so wise. I'm just so grateful for my own sanity that we haven't been under lockdown in Australia. We've still been able to surf, because Dave, if he goes more than a week without surfing, things get complicated at home.
Dave, you got to keep the gills wet, huh?
Yeah, shit gets really pear-shaped very quickly. I don't. Yeah, I'm not very good at integrating the surfing on land thing into my life yet.
Dude, you got to try it, man. Honestly, it's been, it's all in your mind. That's the beauty of everything, really. That's the ultimate.
Yeah. Lauren can say that, but I can say the exact same thing about her. But I'm not going. I won't go there with that kind of discussion. But
you mentioned Anna Ergut. I just, have so much respect and admiration for her. She's such a beautiful, kind, and such a clever woman. I interviewed her for a book that I put together recently, and she had this to say. She said, "Something in me seeks being just on the edge of frightening situations to test myself. If I only get to do this once, then I want the entire spectrum of the human experience."
Wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
Amazing.
Do you relate to that too? And what's it like being in a relationship with two very wildly adventurous people?
I guess sometimes you don't know if the ingredients are going to quite produce the magic, but this has been just incredible, meeting Anna. I'd known about her before I got a chance to meet her, and I was just so impressed. She just seemed like a hardy, like a badass, she could go out there and surf in the snow. And, I've had experiences with that, and it's thrilling and difficult, and hard work. And she just, I don't know, she has a light to her that it's contagious, and to share life together is just, it's been liberating for me. I feel like I'm my best version of myself when I'm with her. And then you throw in surfing with that, and it's just, it's a whole nother element, and like I said, sometimes the ingredients you think are right on paper, but sometimes it's just, oh man, it just comes together, and it's just been a blast, The first time that I told her I loved her, I remember we had been dating for a while, and we were surfing this wave down at Trails, and it was a summer day, and it was pretty consistent south swell. And if you guys know Southern Hemisphere, SoCal, those things could be 18 waves. There's no backing down on those things. And we were in the impact zone, duck diving side by side for about 10 or 15 waves. And, it was getting to that breaking point. And I kept looking over and I'm like, wow, she's going to crack any minute now. And she just kept persevering. And we made it both back outside. The next wave that came was this beautiful left-hander, and I just saw her take off and glide just with this so much grace right in front of me. And we had just I was out of gas, and somehow her composure was just so graceful. And I was just like, wow, I love you. That's amazing. Yeah. That's her spirit, it just came through in the wave. And
I love that.
That's so beautiful. My cheeks hurt from smiling so hard. Have you shared surfing with a partner before?
I have. And it is always, a give and take. I feel like sometimes you have your own personal desires, and then also you want to share it, and you want your partner to feel equally as empowered and stoked on the situation. And I think it's just learning through communicating. As far as I know, sometimes it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but I always dreamed of, finding a partner to surf and enjoy sharing the ocean. I mean, I don't think I could ever not have that in my life. And so, yeah, I mean, you guys know it's a special, it's an odd connection. It's amplified when you're in the water.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess I think of it kind of like, we all have, most of us in partnerships have sex to share, right? This physical outlet for sensation. And then surfing is just like doubling that almost. It's like this other outlet where we get to have new experiences together, see the stoke and the fear in each other's eyes, and continue growing separately, but also together.
Exactly. It's like this bizarre vulnerability that you're sharing, and it's like a mix of vulnerability and expression. And I guess that's what everything is, isn't it? That's like when you share that bond. And so,
oh yeah, I hear you loud and clear. Lauren and I's courting moments were all in the ocean. We'd be telling each other, I like you. Oh, I like you too. And then a set wave would come and I'd be like, okay, how can we kiss while we're out here? And then we'd just say to each other, I really want to kiss you. Well, I really want to kiss you too. And then another wave would come.
And then dolphins would come surfing through the lineup. It was like,
you're like, this is unreal. Yeah, it's bizarre.
And
it's
then I landed
and
my board and you got like a 5-foot wave straight on the head and she had to bail and got pounded.
Well, that
when we
board
switched
happened
boards.
to be the Olo.
Yeah.
It wasn't just any board.
Oh my God. That's all. Jeez. Wow.
Thanks for leaving that detail out.
Yeah, well, it's an 80 kilo, 16 foot long, 5 inches thick log. I wasn't going to put all of that in the story.
Oh, that's a casual. Yeah, you're like, here, honey, you should be fine.
Hold on.
Back.
Yeah, I was just checking her composure as well. I wanted to see if she could maintain.
I know. Yeah, but it is funny. Yeah, but see the good and the bad. I mean, going through those like, whoa, we just made it through. That was a wild one. Like looking around like, whoa, that's also feels like you grow a little bit closer. I mean, if the road was easy all the time, and it seems like those challenging moments in a relationship seem like great opportunities to grow together. It's felt like, and sometimes if it's too easy, too long, you kind of start looking around like, what's going on? A little bit.
We spoke a little bit about your biological brothers. I wanted to converse a little bit about brotherhood in the surfing community. When I hear the word brotherhood and how it relates to surfing, I think of two kind of genres: the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, which was like the psychedelic
John Peck.
Yeah, John Peck. Yeah. And then I think of like the Bra Boys or Dahui, and like men bonded by violence, basically, and enforcing localism. How do we reform that? Or what's your experience of brotherhood in surfing now?
That's interesting. I guess, we always look towards those groups you just mentioned as a source of understanding that tight bond of looking after one another, which I think was hugely valuable to us in certain ways. But then understanding that we're all brothers and sisters, like the further you go, or at least that I've gone in my life and gone out through the world, I think applying that philosophy of being biological brothers taught us what it takes. It takes, you got to give to receive. You have to be a friend to have a friend, you know, and as a brother, we always were sharing everything. And so sharing became second nature to us. And as we grew up, that philosophy of sharing just kept growing. And
where do you all go from here? What's the future look like if you just, wipe out the current situation of everything that's happening?
I don't know. I've been really excited about these different boards. We were talking a bit prior about single fins and twin fins, and I'm just fascinated by surfing. I feel like I pursued quite a bit of time developing the skill set and riding thrusters and being open-minded. The trip that we took to Indo was a really cool trip. That actually was one of the most impactful ones for seeing boards being ridden that were alternative in design and being ridden in front of me. And the way you took those lines were just blew me away that you could do that on those boards. So I've been open to experimenting a lot with that. Actually, I have a kind of an Olo inspired board. I actually watched your guys' video that you made with that, and it's about 14 feet, a bit modern. It's shaped in foam, and it's not essential. It's loosely an Olo, but man, it's just surfing a bunch of different stuff. And I feel like surfing has become fresh again, like you've been riding a bunch of different stuff your whole life. And
yeah, well, for me now, the weirdest thing I can do is I'll jump on a Channel Islands thruster. That's about as weird as it could ever get for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool. But sometimes it's good to have a little Freaky Friday, And, but I was tripping so hard. I wanted to ask you guys, I was so inspired by that Derek Hind interview you guys had on your guys' podcast, because in that podcast, he mentions and talks about the meat cleaver surfing. Describing surfing as like a machismo, the turn thing. And that blew me away. Like I'm so interested in seeing surfing that we've done our whole life in a completely different way. So any opportunity I get, I'm just fascinated, and it's limitless, I mean, what's the backstory on that? I mean, it sounded like I'd never heard that. I was so blown away. Because in surfing, you want to throw buckets, and that was just a really cool thing.
Buckets are a drag. So Derek's comment goes straight into one of George Greeno's central comments about modern surfing, and that every turn we do where we're throwing spray is an example of our desire to be macho chest beaters, as he calls them, just beating our chest, right? It's a display of power and strength, because from his point of view, all that water sheeting off our board is just drag, right? It's just drag. It's not actually a great part of riding waves, which is speed and lack of resistance, friction-free, all that sort of stuff. So Derek and George sort of echo each other in this way, where that whole idea of sheeting water off a board is nothing to really celebrate. It's like a display of drag, right? And so Derek's angle is about the fin, and that, when Tom Blake created the fin on surfboards in Hawaii back in the day, none of the locals wanted to ride it. That was a kook's board. The fin was all drag. It was so slow. It was like putting training wheels on the things that they were riding at the time, which were hot curls mostly, and that kind of hot curl, finless sort of planky sort of stuff. And then that goes all the way back to, Olos and Elias and all of that world. But so the origins of the fin in Derek's mind are these kind of, rookie crutches that people use for surfing, for handling speed. So his whole thing is like, we were set on the wrong course. He's got respect for Blake and everything, but he's like, those fins, that it's just a drag. And then when you look at George and you look at how small the fins are on his board, he is going for as little drag as possible. And so that's why he created flex in his spoons and stuff was so that he could hold into the wave face because of the flexing outline of the board instead of holding into the wave face with the drag of a fin. So George went through Tahiti when he was on his sailboat going across the Pacific and surfed Chopu, and he didn't rate it. He said it was like just a glorified closeout. But he surfed it, right, on this board with the tiniest fin you could ever imagine. It's like an inch wide and like 5 inches deep. It's so little. But his whole deal was about reducing drag so that you increase your speed. So the whole meat cleaver thing and the whole throwing of spray and all that sort of stuff, those two guys have a completely different take on it. And so, so there's that.
I'm so glad to hear that. That was like, you know, when you listen to something and you're like, wow, I'm into that. I'm interested. I love free thinkers like that. And
yeah. So it's like, what's the point of that? What's the point of that sensation? What is the point of doing that technical trick, whatever it is, in the air, on the face, whatever it is? What is the point of it? And if it's joy, or is it a status thing, or is it to look a certain way? What's the motivator in that? And there's no right or wrong with any of that. It's just like, perhaps one of those is your way. Perhaps you will come up with a completely new way. But it's just wonderful when you hear people like those two guys who have been at this surfing thing so deeply and for so long, to come up with concepts and perspectives like this for, you know, people of our age and younger. It's really refreshing. So
yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. And I guess in the exact opposite spectrum is why, I mean, we talked about this a little earlier about why I've been enjoying riding a single fin, because it's essentially it feels so much drag under your feet. And the way that you can access different areas of the wave face has been refreshing. And, you know, when you're moving at that speed, you have to approach it different. And I feel like it runs out of the pocket a little different. And then you can, for myself, I felt like I've been applying it to my standard thruster or twin fin, whatever I'm riding at the day. And I don't know, I think riding a bunch of different equipment has allowed me to see the waves in a different, almost dimension, you know. It seems incredible in that way.
Did you talk about your 1311?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah,
so that's exactly how long it is. You said something like around that length, but that's what it is. Those are some pretty trippy numbers together.
Sometimes you got to run them. I don't know. Yeah, we just I don't know. I like odd, and I like just a little off, you know. It just kind of feels like a work in progress, you know. It doesn't feel completed, and so I just always go for rogue things, but in terms of shape, design, length. But that board's crazy. I shaped it with my friend Donald Brink, and it was the first board he shaped for the year, and he shaped some really unique kind of board designs. He's just a really open-minded person to thinking about board design. And so we were at the Surfing Heritage Museum, and obviously they have some amazing boards from Duke and all these guys and these beautiful Hawaiian style Olos. But I just wanted something for San Onofre that would allow me to feel going straight in a new way and pull me into the experience, you know. And just for around here, I want to feel a sense of challenge every day that I surf, and finding a new board like that, or writing a new design for myself like that, was just that way into it, you know.
What's the challenge in
it? That thing is a airplane wing for sure. It's got a very tiny little back fin, and just setting it on the line and letting it trim, and then moving with that much inertia and speed behind you and momentum, and it just does what it wants, and trying to just dance with it, really. I mean, let the board's rolling. For me, I'm along for the ride, you know. And surrendering to it is a huge aspect too. And I've been learning that a lot in my surfing, and everything in life follows suit. Is sometimes surrendering your own preconceived goals or desires, and just letting it unfold, and you being there to enjoy it or embrace it or interpret it. That thing is, that thing is a sled. You guys probably see a bunch of wild crafts over in where you guys are there.
Yeah, it's a pretty eclectic zone for that. It's like, kind of like I mentioned before, the weirdest thing someone in this area could do would be probably to ride a Channel Islands thruster. It's everything else is what's going on in this region, which is pretty classic. But, it's also a product of where we live. You have short waves, you have long waves, you got deep water waves, you got like waves that are a foot high but 4 foot wide, breaking in like ankle deep water. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So the way we respond to that, so that you can go to the ocean every day and have a blast, is by mirroring that kind of diversity. So that's a real treat. I was going to say, you should put that 13-footer, that 14-footer sideways in San Onofre or out of trestles, and you clear the line up pretty quick. That's what we do with the Olo.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I've got that thing's gotten loose
that's it.
Quite a few times, and oh my goodness. People are not running towards it, I tell you. Just like, run! Yeah,
it's just a joy, huh? It's just fun. And I remember that with our trip when we got to be on a trip in Indo together, just the joy of it. We are so blessed to be in these positions and to have that gratitude and that joy at the forefront of it is really the appropriate response to being so fortunate. We're just really, really lucky to be where we are and have what we have at our fingertips.
I have one more little question. Dave and I were chatting earlier about the nature of free surfing and how it is a freedom from the structure of the tour, for example. But you have to have the drive and, what was the word? I said self-discipline.
Proactive.
But you said, you have to be proactive to stay engaged, stay relevant, keep pushing and growing yourself. And I think probably a lot of people see it as a very privileged position, which it is, but it also is work.
Yeah, it's you nailed it right on the head. It's you are accountable for yourself, and I always felt like once I stopped competing, and you had to work twice as hard, in certain ways, in terms of exploring the right waves or just working hard to create the opportunity. It wasn't like you just showed up, unzipped your suitcase and showed up and get a singlet. But that process was so extremely rewarding. And the more you get the hang of it too, it was liberating. It just felt like it does take a certain person, really, that can be on their own and feel still driven. Some people need to train with a bunch of people in the gym and have that group environment where, I know for myself, I always enjoy being alone in those moments. And I think that kind of competitive fire from inside, but only really with myself, to be my best version of myself and to challenge myself and go, I wonder what I'm capable of, from my point of view, rather than trying to measure myself up against other people and what they were performing at or this and that. And I think that kind of outlook on it really, really helped my longevity in it. And like you said, you have to keep evolving, and you have to keep challenging yourself, finding new challenges. And as a free surfer, it feels like at least the same way, because, you spend a lot of time, you dedicate your time. And I feel like for me, like I had this opportunity where I was surfing, South Pacific waves quite a lot, and it was beautiful and challenging. And I felt connected like I've never been before, but it got to a certain place where, are you going to keep going back to the same place? How are you going to grow from that? How are you going to keep growing from that? And so that's what's been so cool in the evolution of my journey, is trying to find new avenues through the same surfing that we've grown and loved our whole lives, but that can still challenge you and allow you to keep growing and having fun, and there's never a time when I don't have a smile on my face when I come out of the water. I love surfing.
Just a quick reminder that we're running our annual giveaway. We're teaming up with our sponsors Sanook and Gary McNeil Concepts to give away some cozy footwear and, for one lucky listener, a brand new custom Gary McNeil surfboard. To enter, all you have to do is hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. Don't forget your name so we can find you, and let us know what you think of the Water People podcast. You'll be entered to win a new custom board in time for the holidays. By rating and reviewing the podcast, you're really just helping us to get the word out, which keeps us digging up new stories and storytellers from our global ocean culture. Special thanks always to our sound engineer and in-house musician, Shannon Soul Carroll. On behalf of myself, Lauren Hill, and my partner in rhyme, Dave Rastovich, thanks for making the time to listen with us. We'll be continuing the conversation on Instagram, where we're at Water People Podcast. You can find every episode and some extras on our website, waterpeoplepodcast.com.